Good morning, everyone. I hope all of you are doing well. So, today, this is the first class in the series of answer writing classes. And today, I'm going to discuss one question that has come in 2021 mains GS1 paper. This is a history question, and it will give you a very good idea about how to write introduction, body, and conclusion of a question. Let's dive right into the answer writing. Answer writing practice. I'm also going to cover various aspects you have to remember for this question, such as introduction, body, conclusion, and how to really stick to the word limit, as well as be able to try to get the maximum information you can that you've studied out in the question. So let's start writing for this question. The question is from 2021 mains, and the question is evaluate the nature of the bhakti literature and its contribution to Indian culture in 115 words, and this is 10 marks. This is the first question of the paper, of GS1 paper. So basically, how to analyze this question? Whenever I used to see a question in the question paper of UPSC, I used to think about in first 30 seconds or so, because for this question you are going to get approximately 7 minutes because it's 150 words. For that, you can look at the other class that I have made. And if you have 7 minutes, the first 30 to 40 seconds, you can definitely think about the question. Think about main aspects that you are going to cover about the question. So the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about or when you analyze the bhakti literature is going to be, when did the bhakti literature develop in India? Number one, that when did it develop? Time period, right? And I know the bhakti period developed, of course, if you have studied, from around 8th century AD till around 17th century AD time period. So this is the time period in which the bhakti period developed. And main people who were associated with bhakti were like Sant Tukaram, various Sikh gurus, etc. Right? These are the kind of people who were associated. This is the rough knowledge you will have after you've read about this. And you can brainstorm this in 30-40 seconds. So personalities, who were the main personalities, who were the main gurus, like various Sikh saints, right? Shankaradeva was one of the ones. Then Sant Tukaram. So I don't write down like this in the question paper, but I'm just brainstorming with you guys. And then the question, main point of the question is, the keyword of the question is the nature of the bhakti literature and the contribution. So you have to cover two things: nature of the bhakti literature and the contribution that it made to Indian culture, right? Contribution. So in nature, things like, if I remember correctly from the book that I have read, things like that will come to your mind will be like something like the that it helped in the development of language, local languages or vernaculars. It also helped in creation or development of various art forms like songs, poems, things like that, bhakti songs, rituals, various kind of rituals. And they were mostly universal in nature. By that I mean that they were non-sectarian. They appealed to everyone. They appealed to the masses. Despite of whether they were coming from an Islamic background or a Hindu background, they still appealed to everyone. So this was the kind of the nature. And the contribution that it made was development of various arts and culture, development of vernacular language, development of music, development of various philosophical schools. So overall I know now, नेचर के बारे में लिखना है, कंट्रीब्यूशन के बारे में लिखना है, and overall introduction you can make by just introducing bhakti literature as such. So that is the kind of sequence I will be following. So for introduction, what I always do is I always just try to define that particular main thing that is given in the question. So here it is about bhakti literature, so I will just simply define bhakti literature. So bhakti literature during the period of 8th century to 17th century AD. Alright, now I know that this is the rough period during which it developed. Sorry, my writing got a little bit messed up because I'm not getting a sense of the camera here, but All right, we will just continue. And then this is a very simple, right? Simple introduction. Personalities such as Sant Tukaram, various Sikh gurus, Shankaradeva, and many others contributed to the development of Bhakti literature. Alright, now remember, word limit, I should not go over 175, 180 words because time ही नहीं होगा इतना. So I have to keep a check. See, introduction is very short. 2 paragraphs or about 5 lines, not more than 40 words I have written an introduction. और introduction में मैंने क्या लिखा है? Notice I have just simply given the timeline of the Bhakti literature and told about the main people who were there in the Bhakti literature. So for history questions, you can use this strategy where you just give a very brief introduction about that particular period, that particular event, or that particular any particular kind of a historical event they might be asking you. All right, so here this is the introduction. Now I will go to the, now I told you what are the keywords: nature and contribution. So nature and contribution will be separate, and you should separate it out. It will become easier for you to answer it also, and you will probably get more marks also. Nature of Bhakti literature. I normally box it also sometimes so that I can draw the attention of the checker, paper checker, to what I have written here. All right. So, all right. And so use of vernacular. Again, I am underlining. You can write this in bold also, so that the person knows what you are actually writing about. Local languages that appealed to the masses were used instead of court languages, right? This is one of the natures of the Bhakti literature, that it used to use vernaculars. You should know these points, of course. You should have studied this point. और मैं, आप ध्यान दीजिए, मैं कैसे बिल्कुल एक एक पॉइंट को एक एक पॉइंट में बना के लिख रहा हूँ, एक एक मेन पॉइंट्स को. आई एम नॉट ट्राइंग टू एक्सप्लेन इट टू मच. आई एम जस्ट राइटिंग द मेन एग्जाम्पल्स और मेन कीवर्ड्स. Like here, instead of court language, masses were more appealing. Masses used to like the local language, so obviously because they used to speak the local languages. So Bhakti literature democratized the entire idea of spirituality and religion because it used local languages. So that I am giving you. Kirtans were developed Shaivites and Vaishnavites also developed poetry, which became hallmark of Bhakti. By the way, the pen I am using is Uniball pen. So I like this pen, so you can use it. I like this even today, and I use this for exam also. Universal non-sectarian or interreligious in nature. So these movements were of course universal and interreligious in nature. So Bhakti movement used stories interchangeably. Spelling कई बार गलत भी हो जाती है तो it's okay, it's not going to affect your marks as long as your point is correct. But too many spelling languages are also bad. One or two spelling languages are okay in a question. Okay, Sufi poetry from Islam. So I have studied these basic points from NCERT. What is the source of these? I have studied these basic points from NCERT, and that is what I am using, because of course I have not done PhD or that kind of a in-depth study of any of this. So now again, revising what we have studied so far. The two keywords are nature and contribution. The main concept is Bhakti literature. In the introduction, define the main topic or the main thing that has been asked about. So here I have defined Bhakti literature in very short. कब से कब तक था? Number one, when to when, and number two, what were the main personalities. Similarly, you can use this technique for any history question also. Now what about the nature? Nature is one part and contribution of Bhakti literature is the second part. So in nature, I have defined that what was the nature of Bhakti literature. It used various local languages, it used various devotional songs and rituals to spread it. And then also it was universal in nature and non-sectarian in nature. And उसके specific examples भी provide कर दिए हैं. ठीक है, simple है. Don't try to explain too much of your points because you have only limited word limit that you have to use. Remember, in UPSC questions you don't have to explain, you just have to provide main points. Now, what are the contributions? So I'll just flip the page because so contributions, all right, contributions. So you can just write contributions. You can also write the whole thing, contributions of Bhakti literature, like that. But time limited है तो खाली contributions लिखेंगे और आगे बढ़ जाएंगे. It contributed. One point I'll write like this. The first point, to development art and culture. Very broad point. Now I'm not remembering any examples of this, so that's why I've just given a broad point. Development of vernacular, scripts of local languages such as Gurumukhi, Punjabi, and Gurumukhi are very similar only, I think, but अब लिख दिया है तो ठीक है. Marathi, etc. developed development in dance forms such as Kirtan, Qawwali, and Sattariya. You know that I'm remembering Sattariya. क्लासिकल डांसेस भारतनाट्यम वगैरह इससे डेवलप नहीं होते. और मेन चीज़ को मैं अंडरलाइन भी कर दूंगा. ठीक है, लाइक दिस योर whoever is reading can quickly read कि हाँ आपने वो मेन पॉइंट लिखा है. Growth of philosophical schools such as dualism, non-dualism, द्वैता, ऐसे ये आप सब विशिष्ट अद्वैता, all this you can get from NCERT, etc. Took place. Alright. So contributions also we have written main contributions that we know from what we have studied. So it can be seen. Now this is the conclusion. Very short conclusion derived from the above point. So it can be seen from above examples that Bharti literature made literature and religion, spiritualism accessible to the masses and democratized its reach. Alright, so similarly, so what have you derived from the above should be part of your conclusion. Whatever you have analyzed in this answer, that what was the nature and contribution, whatever you have analyzed in the body should be used to get some kind of a conclusion. So here conclusion is simply 2-3 lines, 4 lines about what can be seen from the above things that we have studied. And what can be seen is that Bhakti literature has led to spirituality and religion becoming more democratized in India, because it helped developed it in local languages, music, helped in development of music, dance, art forms, philosophical schools, etc. So I hope you understand here the 3 components of answer writing like I have described in this simple class for you. And similarly, we are going to practice a lot of these questions. I will pick up a question or 2 in every session that I'm going to be doing now from the old UPSC question papers, and then you can also access these on my YouTube channel in the community section, or on a Google Drive I will put it, and you can use it for your answer writing practice. So what are the 3 components? Identify the keyword, identify the main concept that the question is about, keyword and the concept, and then divide it in various portions. Introduction should be simply about defining what is the main concept that is asked, and then the keywords that are there, nature and contribution in this question. For that, in the body you will put the content, and after that the conclusion should be just on the basis of the above. We will further deconstruct questions like this in the future. The next question I'm going to discuss is going to be on the rise and growth of socio-religious reform movements, with special reference to Young Bengal and Brahmo Samaj. I will also discuss that in the next class. I think today's class is long enough, so next class will have that question. Initially, I told you that I will cover 2 questions, but I will cover only 1 in this particular class. Alright, take care. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Happy to answer them. Bye-bye.